And we are live for Triple T number 112, 112 of these on February 20th, 2024. Here we are. My name is TJ Zebel. I like to call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with saying, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking the right questions, getting down to help people find the answers to the questions that they have. I work with all sorts of people, totally blessed. I help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, a lot of relationship stuff. Got to do a little corporate coaching lately, and that felt good. What else? For those of you watching live on Facebook, hi Mom. And for those of you that are on YouTube watching the recordings, do me a favor, please. Make sure that you've clicked the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave comments. Doesn't cost you anything, but kind of helps me out a little bit. Share these with as many people as you can. If you think there's something in there that they might get something out of, I don't do this for my glory. I do it because I hope that there's some nugget in there, something that can help somebody have a better life. For those of you on the call, I see some veterans here, but those of you that are watching live or watching a recording, the way I run this is the first hour I have at least 3 topics to talk about for the first hour. Second hour is open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic, so please make sure you have your topics ready so we can dive right into it. What else we got? Introduce the tie. Start a little something this year where I'm wearing a different tie every week. So we got this one today. Little Tasmacaz and Bugs and the Martian and all those fun guys. And if you got to see them Saturday morning, because that was the only option, you had an amazing childhood. Just saying. What else we got? Anybody got anything they want to share from the last 7 days? Any ahas, epiphanies, cool stuff? Yes, no?
I'm good.
Okay. And I found out I do have to point out in the beginning of these recordings, the only people that show up on the recordings are the ones who have their cameras on. So if it looks like Lenora and I are having an amazing conversation, addressing tons of people, there are right now a number of other people on the call as well. Somebody was like, when did the voices pop in? I went, well, they were there the whole time. You just didn't get to see them on the recording. Just wanted to point that out. I had kind of a interesting week, we'll say. So if my energy seems a tad off and my voice is you'll notice my voice is a little different than normal. Thursday afternoon, I went in for an operation on my legs for varicose veins, procedure number 13. And it was supposed to be in and out, easy McCheesy. Got started late, but spent 3.5 hours in the operating room. Yeah, a little bigger job than Doc had anticipated, but I'm thankful for him going in, and I told him before he got started, don't halfway this one. Get in there, do what it needs to be done so I can be your success story and I don't have to have this done again. So had an intubation tube down my throat for 3.5 hours. So yeah, and I ended up staying for another 2 days because we were having that much fun. But it did allow me to meet some really amazing staff. Do want to throw a shout out for the staff at the hospital and all of them that came in and took care of me. And so that was yay for the week. But doing good today, good enough. I went to a leadership conference, and I would like to recommend that any and all of you find these around. They're happening all the time, and they're not as hard to get into as you would think. It's just something about being around the mindset of people that are willing to take time out of their life, out of their day, to go to events like this. And got some really good nuggets, probably got talking points for the next 2-3 weeks easy. And if I hadn't already posted the 3 topics for today before I left, I would have probably changed them up, but we'll roll with it. And yes, Lenora put in the comments, lots of chamber events in universities. So reach out, look around, see when these are happening. Even if you think that you're not going to get anything out of it, why would I go? If nothing else, just to see who you meet. It was pretty cool. All right, well, on with the show, and away we go. Tonight's topics: kindergarten to doctorate, safety net, and hurt me, please. Kindergarten to doctorate. This one came up with a discussion with a dear friend of mine about, why is it so hard to deal with some people? And I'd watched a Dolores Cannon short on Instagram earlier that day or that week, and I just got this download of, we're not all here on this planet at the same level. If you know anything about Dolores Cannon, or if you don't, she's has some very interesting takes on what's going on here. And the more I do the work that I do now, the more I agree with the things that she says. And one of the ways she looks at it is, Earth is school for our energetic beings, our souls. We come down here to learn. And we don't get to skip a grade. You don't get to go from kindergarten straight to college. But you get as many chances as you need to complete a grade. But as we may have noticed, most of us have, there's no specific class and no specific teacher and no specific workbooks or anything. So how do we know when we're actually in the classroom? And it dawned on me, we're all in this one big classroom, playground, whatever you want to call it. All grades are represented. There's no segregation, no nothing. And if you imagine what it would be like if you had a school ground that had everything from kindergarten to double doctorate all being out on the playground at the exact same time, but everybody looked the same age. So the only way you could figure out if you're talking to a fifth grader or a senior or somebody who's about to graduate with their double doctorate is by interacting with them. And if you've been around kids long enough, sometimes it's almost easier to have a conversation and teach somebody about something to a fifth grader than it is to a 15-year-old who knows everything at that point. Just ask them. I know. I've dealt with a few of them. And then when you start trying to talk with somebody who's about to graduate with a double doctorate, it depends on the person, doesn't it? Some of them don't know have forgotten how to have the conversation at the level they were at when they were where you are. Their only focus is to make sure that they can converse at the highest level with the most intricate information that they've attained over several years of studying in the utmost efficient way to make sure that dude, can you dumb it down just a little bit? I mean, like, we don't have to go to third grade, but how did you talk when you were at my grade? Which, of course, is another little paradox. I don't even know what grade I'm in. I'd like to think that I'm at least over third grade. I mean, I've learned a few things. I've had downloads and stuff that I would like to think they don't offer in third grade. I'd like to think that maybe I'm 10th grade or a little higher. Mom will verify when I was in 5th grade. I was one of those where, okay, done. What else you got for me? That was 10th grade English. Cool. Can we go 11th? Nope. And so I kind of get it from that respect. But I'm curious, what do you guys think about this? Yes.
I like the idea of it. When it's hilarious that you mentioned about people thinking or speaking too high, because among one of the other questions that I had bumbling around in my head today was about masks, but I often find myself bombarding people with information to prove to them that I know something. And it's obnoxious of me, and it's one that I'm actually going back to carefully explain, because I want them to understand what I'm sharing and not feel overwhelmed. And I was even going through a PowerPoint that I have for a conference next week, and somebody had said, wow, this is really heavy on the information. And I said, thank you so much for pointing that out to me, because I don't want that to be the lasting impression.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because guilty as charged. And mine is more, correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I'm right, but I just love to teach. And so without knowing what grade people are in, I just want to teach. And like you say, sometimes you're a senior going, hey, you want to learn what I learned today in math? Here's calculus. Hey, what do you think of that? And you don't realize you're talking to a third grader who's going, Holly.
Man, I am loving all of this. A few things that are swimming around my head. Oh, there it goes. So first of all, one of the thoughts is kind of this idea that in school, especially, when you get into college or high school or whatever, grades are not necessarily as rigid as they are when you're a kid. And so you could be in, level 7 math when you're in, for me, it would be, maybe level 1 of drawing or, whatever it may be. That was one of my things too, is I think sometimes we, not just when we're judging ourselves, when we judge other people, we get into this place of, you're my mentor for everything. I told this story very recently. I can't remember if it was here or not. But like for instance, I had a brilliant European history teacher. And one day she tried to teach us physics. It became very apparent that she didn't know the first thing about physics, but she did. And so it's kind of that idea of we're always learning, and you need to have the humility to say, even if I am good in one area, that doesn't mean I can't learn from everybody around me. And anybody you meet, there's probably somewhere they're more advanced than you are, even if it's something tiny. Maybe they tie their shoes better than you do, but there's something to be learned from everybody. Oh gosh, what was the other thought I was having? It'll come to me, I'm sure, at some point. Oh, no, I remember what it was. Also, this concept that I've been thinking about recently that came up for me is the difference between technical knowledge and having your spirit in it. Somebody was talking about music, and you could be if you're very technically minded, you could just master music and be the most technical, amazing musician ever, and nobody's ever going to want to listen to you because you don't play with any kind of feeling. You don't put any kind of your personality into it, your spirit into it. So, I don't necessarily know what this all means. It's kind of a new thing for me, but this idea of as we're learning and as we're spreading, like that karaoke singer who's amazing but doesn't sing with any kind of flair versus the person who barely could get out a note, but you can tell they're having so much fun that you just want to be a part of it. I'm just kind of thinking of it in all areas. What is that difference of technical knowledge versus actually like putting your personality into something?
Amen. And just before I go to Linda, I'm so glad you brought that up. I didn't clear this with a person who may end up watching this, but I know somebody who was in music class, played clarinet, and was doing amazing. And I don't remember, the other thing, I don't remember the story exactly. They were either in a position to get first chair, if you know what music is, or the teacher put them in a position to challenge first chair. And that's when the teacher found out they didn't know how to read music. They simply played by ear and by watch. And because they couldn't read music, they weren't allowed to sit first chair. And so there's a lot of different ways that, well, you can't have this job because you don't have a piece of paper that says that you're qualified to do this job, even though you've been doing it better than the people that have 7 different pieces of paper that say they knew how to do the job. Linda.
I really like that. I don't know. I guess that's not an allegory. It's not an explanation. I'm not sure what you call it, because it's a very elegant word picture. And having an image really works for me. Like I have this image of what time looks like, which is completely different from what most people think of time. And when I tell people about it, I can see that immediately they get it and they understand, and it's starting to change their framework. Well, the word picture you just gave us does the same thing for me that way. It's like when I hear that, it's really because I can see in my head, I can imagine an entire schoolyard full of kids, and some of them are physics professors, and some of them are young athletes, and everything in between. You got your homecoming queens, you got your jocks, you got your stoners, you got your academics, you got everything in between, right? And how it is that you don't even know who you're talking to when you're talking to them, but how different a perspective that they come from. So I really like that because it's a visual, I guess it's an allegory that holds a lot of, I think, insightful truth, and it's really easy to hang on to for me. Those visual explanations are something that just make a lot of sense to me in the way my mind works because I'm that kid on the playground. So I really like it.
Thank you. And when you were describing that, I got another squirrel dropped off a deal that Dolores had said is you also don't know what a person went through in the last life. You can look at them and we've met these people, we've seen these people that just seem to just kind of just skate through life. They probably don't accomplish a whole lot, but everything just seems to be like, And then you got the other ones where you're like, wow, why did they have to go through that? And according to Dolores is we choose what we're going to go through before we come down here. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, 11th grade, last time I didn't learn a whole lot. I was probably one of those stoners that Linda was talking about. I should probably go figure out some stuff so I can, get into 12th grade next time. And so you sign yourself up for some challenges. So again, you don't know what grade you're in, or they're in. You're in, they're in. And you don't know what they signed up for to learn while down here going through that grade. Because I remember a couple of people had some pretty rough 6th grades. One of my friends that I grew up with, he didn't get through 6th grade. They held him back. So, just like here, you don't get to skip. And I don't think the universe is pulling the old, well, you gave it a good try. We're just going to let you kind of just slide on by. I got a pretty good feeling they're like, yeah, we were watching. Here's your scorecard. Yeah, you pulled a 72. Sorry. Close. Go give it another shot. So before we change topics, anybody got any more info, insights, ahas, epiphanies they'd like to share with that? Oh, Mike, I get it. I'm September 12th, and Mom, the year that that showed up, I had the option of going in early and being a grade ahead of me or being held back. So, yeah, I was one of the older ones of our class. So I get it. Anything else before we switch gears? On to safety net. Isn't it nice to have a safety net? Especially with some of the stuff that we go through. And some of the jobs that I've had where there should have been a safety net. Some of the commercial construction that I've done, up a story or two or three and putting metal sheeting on, and OSHA probably would have had a meltdown. But there's also, I think, too much safety net sometimes. And I think a lot of the last generation or two are suffering from that as well. Johnny, no. Before you go outside, I know you saw that bike with the training wheels and the crash bars, but before you can get on that, you got to put on your safety shoes and your knee pads and your elbow pads and your helmet and your mouthpiece and your safety gloves and your safety vest and a tether, and you can't go outside of the warning system that alerts me if you fall over. And the kid never figures out what it's like to fall over and scrape his elbow. Or half the stuff that we did as kids. Mom, I love you. I have no idea how I made it to this age. Whew. No, Mom will verify. And she only knew about, because we were free range parented. Outside. Don't come back until the street lights come on. And we lived in a village in Minnesota where there were woods and farms and lakes and creeks and swamps and gravel pit and all sorts of great things for kids to go out and challenge their guardian angels with no cell phones to check in or record the stupid things that we've done. I know that when I finally get to meet my guardian angel, I'm just going to have to go up and like, I'm so sorry. Thank you. for and he'd be like, yeah, look. See all these hash marks? Those were the hard ones. I kept keeping track of the little times I saved your butt. And so I wanted to bring safety net in here as a little reminder of, sometimes we think, man, if it was just easier. Man, if I just didn't have to worry about failing. Man, if I just had a bigger safety net, I would do this. Maybe if I wait, it'll be safer. And I wish I would have wrote the quote down when I heard it, but it was something like, if you wait to get started on something, the only thing that will change is it'll be later. If you wait to get started on something, especially something you want to do, you're going to do it anyway. The only thing that's going to change is it'll be later. Later for you to enjoy it. Later for you to learn the lessons. Later for you to find out if you were supposed to do it or not. There's power in that as well. Lenora.
As someone who has spent a number of days in her life procrastinating, I think for me, it's having somebody that keeps encouraging you, that will keep supporting you and keep encouraging you. Say, Mike actually wrote, Mike wrote procrastination syndrome. He just didn't put it in the entire chat. That's probably a very accurate thing. I can procrastinate like a rock star. When I have very specific people who I trust and who are not family encouraging me to do something, it becomes a different ballgame, because when they're family, or when they're somebody that you've had a relationship that has been back and forth and you both have let go of promises at the same time, it's different. But when you have somebody who's in your corner continuously supporting you and pushing you and asking you those hard questions and navigating through that with you, it's a completely different world.
Yes, very much so. And I'm glad you shared that, because as soon as you did, a quote from the leadership conference today popped up. What's the difference between dreams and goals? I'll let you guys ponder on that for a few seconds. What's the difference between dreams and goals? Dreams are for sleeping, goals are for living. Yeah, I was like, ooh, going to write that one down. And young entrepreneur, kicking butt, taking names, and she said that was one of the things that her dad always told her. Stop dreaming. Write your goals down. Give them a timeline. Get after them. If it don't work out, you learn something. We got your back. Her dad said, I don't care what you do as long as you do something for the right reasons, and don't sit around on your butt and dream about it. Dreams are for sleeping, goals are for living. Live. Get after it. Any comments, ahas, input on concept of safety net? Holly.
I have more of a question, because I'm trying to find that balance of, one of the things that popped into my head when you're talking about safety nets is safety nets are good for training, but once you know what you're doing and you're performing, often you don't need it anymore. But they have their place. So I guess the question is, what is the balance? What's the advantage of not having the safety net? I guess maybe we talked about a little bit of if you're waiting. But yeah, sorry, I don't know if friends in my internet's cutting in and out, but
Oh no, you're good. Well, one of the things that popped up when you said that, I think, is understanding real world, true, possible worst case scenario. And what you consider a safety net in that regards. Versus the scenario that I started out with Billy just wanting to ride his bike. I think there's overdoing it and not getting any chance of learning real world lessons versus reckless abandon and not caring. Or doing stuff where you know you should have a safety net, but it might be a bit of a hassle. Lenora.
So, Holly, I love that you asked this question. And when I had first heard safety net, I thought of lots of different safety nets because I've had lots of different safety nets in my life. They weren't just necessarily if I was thinking of a trapeze or walking on a tightrope, especially when you're hiking and you're doing lots of different things. You're taking those safety precautions and you're not just kind of running out there and going, oh, best of luck, I'm going to go try rock climbing without any rope or anything like that, and using it as a way to help support you. So for me, I think of my safety nets as my tools, the techniques. How am I navigating through this? So when I want to go make that step forward and I'm having that procrastination come up, what are the things that I'm using that are going to keep me safe and get me moving forward in the direction that I want to be moving? So that's the way that I like to think of them, as tools and things that are there to ultimately support me, but also help me level up, because that safety net or those safety nets will keep coming along as I continue to level up. That was the thought process that I had when you had asked.
That was awesome. I'm so glad you brought it up, because what popped in my head as soon as you started talking about that, how much faster can we do certain things when we know that we have somewhat of a safety net? If you know that you've got somebody that's got your back as a safety net, how much quicker can you let go of the worry of, well, what if I fall? Well, if you fall, I got you. We got the net up. So you don't have to sit there and focus and death grip every step to make sure that you don't fall. The other part is, once something like that happens, how much energy have you cleared up and made available for your mind to use? I don't have to sit there and think about, I don't have to invest all of this energy into, what if I fall, what if it fails, what if it doesn't work, what if it. If you've got some type of safety net there that says, you'll be fine. Do what you need to do what you do it well. That's more energy that you can pour into that.
Good.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that popped into my head too with what Lenora said, that the difference between a safety net and a safety blanket. The safety net actually catches you when you fall, where the safety blanket is just that psychological thing you think you need, but it's actually doing anything.
Mm-hmm. And right along that topic, understanding which one serves you best. I'm not here to judge. There are some people that you give them a safety blanket, they can walk a tightrope across the Grand Canyon, smiling and whistling because they have their safety blanket. And then you got the other people that, nope, don't need a blanket, need me a net. Gonna be doing some work up there, high profile. So I think it comes down to knowing yourself and whatever it takes to make sure that you don't freeze or invest energy incorrectly worrying about not having that option. Does that make sense? Any other, Lenora?
So for most of you know that I'm doing a course I'm doing my first course and I'm super excited about it, and it's called In Her Thoughts. So this is something that I have been wanting to do, and TJ would probably agree to this, for well over a year. And it was something that I would really, yes, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And I was not actually making freaking progress at all in actually doing it. And I was doing all this other emotional stuff that was really not keeping me stuck. Just I was kind of spinning my wheels in there. And TJ had introduced me to Holly Mignosi, who's another coach, and she's fantastic. And I sing her praises all the time. And she had said to me, she goes, "Okay, so when are you doing this?" And I quite literally looked like a deer in headlights. And she was the one that was saying, "Okay, give me a date. How many are we looking at? What are we doing?" And she was asking those really tough questions. And even though I was having a little bit of a tough time navigating them, as I kept thinking about it over the next 2 weeks, over the next 3 weeks, it started to meld and become much more perceivable and possible. And even though I couldn't tell you what the outcome was, it was quite literally one step at a time. But because I had people in my corner who are supporting me, saying, "Yep, keep going. Yeah, that's okay. Yep, yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Yes, you're not going to be that confident on it right away, but that's okay." And having people to bounce the ideas off of made every step easier. Not easy, it made it easier. And those are the people that I would consider to be my safety net, as in, I'm not crashing to the ground. I just need a little bit more support in this. It's very, very new. And it is walking with somebody and having them support you that makes it much more possible and much more perceivable.
Yeah. Good stuff. Any other inputs, ahas, epiphanies, comments on this before we jump into the very last one? Yes, no? Bueller? All right. Good stuff so far. Let's finish it up with Hurt Me, please. Get your minds out of the gutter. Come on now. This was in line with the operation I had on my legs this last week, where I knew that recovery was not going to be all that comfy, or kind of like when you go to the dentist and you know you need a filling and they still haven't figured out how to make that a wonderful, enjoyable, comfortable experience. But you know you need it done. And one thing that popped in my head was when I get clients that come to me to help with depression, anxiety, phobias, things that have happened to them, trauma, PTSD. And some of them have this notion that they're going to have to go in and relive what happened. And they're going to have to face their demons and the dragons, and it's going to be a battle, and it's going to hurt. And so I picture them kind of, like, okay, I'm at that point. Hurt me, please. Rip the Band-Aid off. Pull the sticker out. Slice and dice my leg so that I can be better in a couple of weeks. But I think people have to get to the point where once you're not afraid and you know you're going to survive the pain, the pleas can come in pretty easy. I just want it done. I just want to get it over with. So if it's going to hurt me, please. Let's get started. And sometimes it's worse than we thought. Sometimes it's better. Like we've all had an experience in our life where in our mind, because what our minds do sometimes, oh, it's gonna be terrible, I'm gonna die. That was it. And how long did we put off something because of stinking thinking? Worst case scenario, oh my goodness gracious, this is gonna be horrible, worst thing ever, I'm never gonna survive. And then we just finally let it happen, and we're like, that was it. I've been putting it off for this long. And then to find out that if we had done it earlier, it would have been even less uncomfortable. For reals. But everybody has their own battles, their own interpretations of what's possible, what might happen. And so we all have to get to that point where if we anticipate it's going to hurt, but it's going to be better on the opposite side of the hurt, hurt me. Please. Any ahas, inputs, comments on that thought process?
Comments. I've probably said this a million times before, but I love that you call it "Hurt Me," because there's a book that I've talked about probably before many times. When to say yes, or boundaries. When to say yes, how to say no. And one of the topics they talk about is the difference between hurt and harm. And I think it's important for people to remember, when we say be willing to be hurt, be willing to go out there and get what you need, that's not just being stupid and saying hurt me just for the sake of hurting me. It's, they point out there are times in our life when we have a choice between being hurt or being harmed. And by default, if you choose not to be hurt, you are going to be harmed. And also you might have to do that to somebody else too. And, obviously hurt is for the moment. Harm is for until you're willing to do the hurt, basically. So it's much better to just take that hurt, get whatever needs to be cut out, get whatever needs to be that exercise that you need, whatever it is, take the hurt in the moment so that you can start to heal and you can start actually living a life that doesn't have a ton of harm in it.
Exactly. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's an amazing part of that scenario. And I've worked with clients where, yes, I've had to point out the difference between did they intend to hurt you or harm you? And you get that look like, same. No. Kind of like one of the metaphors I always bring up is if somebody walks up to you with a 2x4, looks you straight in the eyes and cracks you alongside the head with it, frickin' hurts. Versus walking behind somebody who's carrying a 2x4 over their shoulder and not realizing how close you are, and they take a quick turn and they crack you alongside the head with it, still hurts. But not in the same way. Especially with how they react right after they've done it. If you're behind them and they crack you by accident and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, da, 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 da. It still hurts, but not in the same way. And we may find that not only that, but the accidental probably recovers quickly, quicker than the other. Can be the same 2x4, same amount of force, same pressure, same place. But how we perceive. Was it to hurt me or to harm me? Same with football players. They've pointed out that a vast majority of football players get hit with the same equivalent force of being hit by a automobile up to 30 miles an hour. And then get up and do it again. And again. And again. Versus some people that get bumped into by a car 5 miles an hour, but because of the situation and the surprise, end up in the hospital for 2 weeks or dead. Any more input on that? 50s. Sorry, got to move my legs around a little bit. Whew. Talk about hurt me, please. My legs were like, please move us around a little bit. I'm like, it's gonna hurt. Yes, please.
I think that's what I'm kind of looking at this. You guys hear me first of all?
Could you say that one more time? We had a little trouble hearing you, Mike.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
That cleared it up there.
On my phone instead of my computer, I apologize. So, one of the things that I am kind of studying is there's an audio book called Willpower. And it really does talk about how much mental energy and kinesthetic energy you have that is below your tolerance level. Once you're at your tolerance level, the more brittle you are and the less able you're able to, accept the influx of whatever harm or whatever experience that is. So I think the closer to your tolerance, the less you have available, the more reactive you are, the more hurt. The less self-regulated you are, which makes it more where you're doing more reactive decision-making processes versus proactive or setting thinking, which is more appropriate. Kind of all the things. Sorry about that. I haven't had it. It's kind of where you are mentally and what you can afford to whatever environment you're in. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, I missed a portion of that. It comes in kind of warbly. Like, anybody else able to catch the question and have an answer for it? Darn it! In the parts that I caught, that was,
To say, I think I kind of got some of it. It sounds like we're talking about tolerance levels. So kind of, if we want to talk about like SRUs, talking about kind of our Jing, our Shen, our our sources of energy kind of thing. All that plays in. I mean, Mike, I only got some of it, but it sounded really good, the parts that I got. Talk about how that impacts all of this.
and was that kind of in line with the question, Mike?
Yeah. When you are running low on willpower, then you don't have the tolerance to be able to deal with the inconvenience of whatever you're bumping into.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of us just run around just cleaning off the top of our tolerance, thinking that's reality.
Yep.
And becoming more mindful and being able to give yourself more space in between your life and that tolerance level will make the bumps and bruises of life more easy to accept.
Right, and tolerance level I've found right in line with mindset. SRUs, for those of you that don't know what an SRU is, self-regulating unit, it's the amount of energy we have available to us, whether it be proper sleep, blood sugar level, straightforward mental capacity, depending on the week that you've had, things of that nature. All of those combine to add resilience for us physically and mentally. Which, you know, it's why people that go through, I've taken more naps and slept more in the last 4 days than I have in a long time. But I know that my body needs to heal and mend. And a lot of people don't give credit for needing the same thing for mental hits. Which is why when we're depressed, we may be very healthy, but because of what we've gone through, we're tired a lot. We want to sleep a lot. And you may be getting enough sleep. How's your diet? Are you actually getting restful sleep? Are you finding support systems, support groups, safety nets, things that can help you to take off the perceived attack? Get rid of the energy that, you know, the hurt or the harm energy that may have been inflicted. Which is why I added please, because it's a way of, you know, I don't want to be in this state anymore. It might hurt a bit to get the change work I'm needing. So if you don't mind, hurt me, please. Don't harm me.
This is really something that I was hoping would come up this week, and so this is a very blessed message of motivation. So this is really needed in my life. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I've been blessed enough to get a number of messages like this. When I come up with these topics, most of them are just downloads. So I don't know who needs to hear what. So that's also why I ask everybody to share these with people, not for my glory, but somebody might be like, oh my God, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And that's guardian angel stuff. So that pretty much cleans up the first hour. Any more quick ahas, epiphanies, comments you'd like to add on the first hour? No. Well, those of you that are veterans to the channel know what's coming up next. Now it's time for questions from the group. Questions, topics, whatever. And if you're new to the recording or watching live, this is where I will answer last if I have anything to add to it, because I like to learn as well. So who's got a question or a topic that we can start the hour off with? The polite squirrels arrive again. Just letting everybody else have a chance to chime in case somebody wanted something before I did. So, okay. What do we got? Come on, somebody, please.
I mean, I have a question. So, my question for the group is, among many, I'm going to start with this one. What stops you from wearing a new mask in the world? And how do you overcome it?
Great question. Who's got some input answers for Lenora's great question? Could you repeat it one more time so they can...
Sure can. What stops you from wearing a new mask in the world, and how do you overcome it?
Okay, well, I guess. Really good question. The first thing that popped up for me is, now I'm sure for a lot of people, embarrassment is a huge one. But actually, I think the top thing for me is worrying about whether or not the new mask is morally acceptable. And, this kind of might go into deservingness. I mean, sometimes deservingness comes from other areas, but I think a lot of times it's, it's not moral to take something. It's not, that sort of thing. And so it might be, I can't be this person because I don't know if God would approve. I can't be this person because, my parents might have taught me that this is not a good person to be. And sometimes that's right. But then sometimes when I experiment, I discover who I've been is actually less moral than that mask. And so, I mean, I guess that, the how do you get over it kind of thing for that particular situation is, first of all, I have to tell myself this isn't permanent. I can experiment with it. And if I come out feeling dirty, I could throw it to the side and say I'm never wearing that mask again, but at least I gave it a shot. And if I wear it for a little bit and I say, you know what, this is actually better than who I used to be, then I can adopt it as a more frequent part of who I am. But of course, with embarrassment, one of the things that I do with a lot of my masks too is I'm learning, embarrassment and vulnerability would be another word I put in there. A fear that I'm going to get hurt by being in this new mask somehow. And one of the ways I kind of get over the vulnerability is I have people, my tribe, a lot of people here. I know that if I want to experiment with different masks, there are people in my tribe that I know I can trust to say, hey, I'm going to experiment with this for a while. Give me feedback on it. Tell me what you think. And that's much better, I think, than taking this brand new mask that hasn't been worn in, that might be a little bit vulnerable, and taking it to people that I know are going to be looking for my weaknesses and trying to find a way to strike. And the thing is, if I could practice it with people I trust, then I get good at it. I get confident in it to the point that it's a part of my, my new being, my essence. I'm a lot more confident because there are certain people you just have to know, no matter who you try to be, they're going to attack you for it. Some people, it's because they just want to tear you down. Often that's, a place of, if I tear you down, I feel better about myself kind of situation. And then, but there's also something that, I'll give Matthew Hussey credit for this phrase. He calls it the teething period, where it's people like their world to stay the same. And when you're bringing in a new mask, there's going to be pushback just because it's not familiar. So you're not just changing your world when you change your mask, you're changing their world. And so there's going to be a period where they're going to push back on it and say, is this mask even real? Am I comfortable with this mask? What does this say about, me? I know, because this is the thing too, when you're a new person, here I have this comfortable relationship with you. I know who you are. You know who I am. We don't have to work for that. We've worked to where we're comfortable with each other. We know each other. We don't have to build that relationship. I bring in a new mask. We're kind of having to get to know each other again. We're having to renegotiate what our joint identity is. And that renegotiation period, like I said, Matthew Hussey, he calls it the teething period. If you could get through that teething period, 9 times out of 10, most people, especially especially if they're not, nasty people trying to tear you down. They're going to love that new version of you. If you want to talk, if you want a good example of this, David Steiner talks about, being Jack Sparrow, basically. You stick with it, you're genuine with it, you're congruent with it, you stick with it long enough, they will renegotiate a new relationship with you, and that will become natural. That will become normal, and they won't even think twice about it. But you do have to go through that transition period where they have to get used to it, and they have to accept it, and they're going to test it, and they're going to, whether they realize it or not, that's just human nature. We test it and see, how real is this? How important is this? And am I okay negotiating and still being in your world if this is who you are going to be? So just knowing that going into it, I think, helps get over it. Knowing that that's a thing and that everybody does it. It doesn't mean that my new personality is wrong. It doesn't mean that it's worse or better or anything. It's just the natural reaction of people seeing you change. So I've been going on for a while, but...
Awesome sauce, as always. Anybody else before I give my 2 centavos? Yes? No? Well, if nobody else there, obviously this is a big topic for me because in my class that I teach, Identity Management University, we are all about masks. And for those of you that are like, masks? What are you talking? Personalities. Different personalities that we put on like a mask. And one of the things that I like to say is everybody has multiple personalities. You're not the same person Monday morning at work as you are Sunday morning at church, as you are Saturday night at happy hour, as you are, we all have our different masks that we put on, but we get so familiar with just a few of them. And I get a number of people, well, I just wish I was more outgoing. I wish I was more confident. I wish I was better at getting out in front of people and speaking. I wish I was. And in my class, one of the things that I have people do is I want you to think about somebody who completely embodies what you just described as I wish I was more of. What would that be like? And in one of the classes that I taught, I've told this story a couple of times, but I explained that all of these little nuances, all these little things are like ingredients in your pantry. And you've made your masks that your parents know, because when you go back home, especially me coming from a town of 187 people, I can't put on too drastic of a mask because they'll be like, what is it? Unless, like Holly pointed out, I wear it consistently every time, and now I'm that new person, I'm that different person. But when I run across people that want to try something new, I'm like, I want you to think about exactly what that would look like. I want you to go outside of the room, and I want you to come back in and show us what that looks like. And in one of the classes that I did, I had this wonderful Asian lady who was very soft-spoken, very timid, and when I asked her what she would want to be, she was like, I want to be able to enter a room and talk to people and have them hear me and have the confidence. So, okay. Leave the room, come back in and show us what that looks like. And she comes in and she's still shrunk down. She goes, well, this person would would, use more arm. I'm like, no, don't describe. Come back in, leave again, but come back in and show us what it sounds like, looks like, walks like, talks like, all the above. And this shy, quiet Asian lady walked out of that room and walked back in the room, honest to God, about 4 inches taller. Hello, how is everybody today? Good to see you. I'm so glad to be here. And this voice was like, and we're all looking at her like, she's like, what? I'm like, no. And I had a conversation with this new person with this new mask on. And then I pointed out, you've always had the ingredients in your pantry. You just didn't give yourself permission to use it in that recipe, in that way. Well, I've always wanted to make chocolate chip cookies with chili flakes. Well, do you have all the ingredients? Well, yeah. Well, then give it a shot. But what if people don't like it? Then don't make it again. But what if you like it? Well, I kind of like, I think that'd be kind of good. Good, then make it. And don't take them home for mom and dad. Because mom told you you're not supposed to put chili flakes in your chocolate chip cookies. And sometimes we have an old mask that we have to wear because we're expected to. Heaven forbid we show up with a new mask. We show up to that event or whatever around those people and we put on that old mask. We don't like the way it fits because we've outgrown it. And it smells like childhood angst and all the above, but we wear it out of respect or for convenience of not having to explain why we've got this new fun mask that we enjoy. And it's okay because it's not permanent. As soon as you get back in the car, you can be like, oh, thank God, I hate that mask. All right. Let's put this fun one back on. There, much lighter. I can breathe much better. What do you think, honey? And sometimes we have to come up with a mask that's frivolous and fun just so we can be frivolous and fun. And that's one of the great things about travel. They don't know if it's a new mask. They've never met you. If you want to build yourself a mask with glitter and a little disco ball on top and Elvis glasses and Yoda ears, who cares? Do it. Have fun. I've got friends and colleagues, and when they travel, they decide beforehand who they're going to be. And a great way to figure out how to do this is to take classes in method acting and improv. Those two things, man, you got that is class mask 101. All right, now we want you to make a teddy bear mask with bouffant hair and blue lipstick and who talks like a duck. All right, and you come out and you do your thing. and you realize not only is it fun and liberating, but it didn't kill you. You guys, how many? if you had to go back and add up, how many different masks have you guys seen me wear in 112 episodes? I don't know. Any input on that? Questions, ahas, clarifications?
I like the insights everyone's sharing. Go, Holly. Sorry, I was just saying I like the insights that everyone's been sharing. So thank you.
Oh, definitely me too. I've got a follow-up question if we're done with that topic. I love the topic, by the way. But my question is, so I'm sure we're all familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is the idea that we don't know how good we are at something because the skills it takes to know if you're good at something are the same skills to be good at it. So people who are terrible at something may overestimate their skills. People who are good at something may underestimate their skills. Anyway, I'm kind of thinking of this in relation to mentors. So when we have people who give us feedback, sometimes that feedback is competent and we need to hear it and it would be useful if we did. And sometimes that feedback is completely incompetent, and if we try to incorporate it, we're going to drive ourselves crazy, and we may actually make ourselves worse at something than we are without that feedback. And I've seen people on both sides of this. I've seen people who've had really good people in their world giving them feedback, and they keep saying, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to that. That's incompetent. You don't know what you're talking about." And as an external observer, I could say, actually, they do know what they're talking about. You just don't want to change. But I've also seen people who are getting constant feedback that's incompetent, and it's just like, you need to stop listening to these people because they're giving you bad advice. They don't know what they're talking about. So my question is, how can we, when we need areas of growth, where we need mentors, how can we distinguish who is giving us competent feedback that's useful that we should be listening to, and who is giving us incompetent feedback that's actually hurting us and holding us back and maybe even making us worse at it than we were before?
Great question. Who's got stuff for that one?
I love that question, Holly. And I have definitely experienced that. And I think it's a learning lesson or a learning experience on knowing how you like to learn, who really resonates with you, listening to your own internal guidance and really learning ways to trust yourself of saying, this person is really helpful to me, or this person may not be as helpful to me as I'm wanting them. And definitely ABT, always be testing and reflecting on what you're learning. Are you headed in the direction that you want, or are you now overthinking certain things? Because sometimes people may have the best interest, your best interest at heart. Some people may also unconsciously but intentionally be trying to take you down and not being as helpful to you as you had initially wanted, thinking that, oh, you can trust them. So it's definitely a constant evaluation of, are you moving in the direction that you want? Is this person helping you move in the direction that you want?
Great answer. Anybody else got input on this one? Another one that I've got all sorts of stuff for this one. Sometimes the only way through is through. Find somebody to get started with so that you can find out if it's the right one or not. Like Lenora pointed out, ABT, always be testing. always be learning. Know your goals. What do you want to learn and why? What might that look like? Like we pointed out, kindergarten to doctorate. Are you dealing with somebody on your level, above your level, below your level? I've said many times, if you're the smartest person in the room, time to switch rooms. Keep challenging yourself. And here's another one, right, from today's conference. Courage, the ability to do things that you wouldn't want to do. But there's encourage and there's discourage. And encourage is pouring courage into yourself or others. Discourage is taking the courage out. And if you discourage somebody enough, they won't want to do anything anymore because they don't have the courage to try. If you encourage somebody enough, they will do it even if they are scared poopless. Because you've encouraged them in the proper way, in the proper amount. Sometimes it's a safety net. Sometimes it's holding hands. Sometimes it's sharing a vision. Sometimes it's sharing a mask, laughing and joking and knowing that you're not being judged. Sometimes it's patience in the lesson. Because some lessons are a little challenging. I hear what you say, but not adding up. What if I explain it this way? Still not getting it. What if I say it this way? Nope. Relentless. And finally it's like, oh, I got it. Yes. Sometimes it's just feeling safe enough to be silly in front of people. Any more inputs, comments on that?
That one's going to keep exploding in my head for about a week, especially because when I had said, when I was talking very specifically about Holly, which she asked, people may be attempting to encourage you in a less than supportive way. Tonality is huge. You know, there are tons of phrases that I can easily pull up and, well, I was just encouraging you. Are you? It's a little debatable with that kind of tone in there. That quote, that is an incredible quote. Thank you for sharing that, TJ.
And one thing you gotta remember is sometimes our worst cheerleaders are family and friends because they're too afraid of you changing. Because if you change, what happens then? Who are you going to become? And when you become that person, then where are you going to go and what are you going to do? And if you changed, then how does that reflect against me not wanting to change? Or if you change, is that going to make me change? One of the things Mark Aceta taught in some of his lectures was, it's crazy. You tell people that you want to run the Boston Marathon, And the ones that don't know you are like, rock on, man. They don't care if you've never run a block. They don't care. They're like, right on. But what are your friends and family? Are you nuts? I've never seen you run. What if you don't make it? What's it going to cost? How much is it going to cost for you to get there? How long is it going to take? And they're the ones standing by the side of the road throwing sticks at your feet. And so you have to be strong-willed enough to go, this is important to me. I shouldn't have to explain to you why I want to or need to do it. I just do. I don't know why I want to wear this mask today. I just do. I don't know why I want to start a different job when I've got one that, in your eyes, is perfect. Been there a while. Just because it's not challenging your soul and it's eating you from the inside out, I mean, it's a job. Why would you want to throw that away? So I don't end up like you. Hard word.
Things that go over like a lead balloon.
Yes. A big one. With no support. And that brings us close to the bottom of the hour. So what else we got? We're clicking them down here. Come on.
I have another. And I think, Holly, I think you'll like this one. To everybody, what are your thoughts on how to manage the go, 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 and you don't have to rush. There's divine timing. Because our culture would have you reinforcing this rush, 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 get it done, go, 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 1,000,000 miles an hour, all caffeinated and hocked up. And then our inspirational side, our spiritual side, our soul side is going, there's no rush. You're in perfect timing. And adding to that, what are some questions that you ask to unblock yourself?
All right. Who's got input?
I'll go, I guess. I do love this question. So a couple of things. First of all, I think this gets into this concept, that time really is an illusion, and there is divine timing, definitely. I think I've told the analogy before that when I was driving to the very first time by myself, and I was driving with this other driver, I was going exactly on the speed limit, and all of the lights were perfectly timed, and this other driver just kept speeding and speeding and speeding, and they kept speeding, stopping at the light, and then I'd pass them because I'm just, cruising by, and then they'd speed, finally catch up to me, finally pass me, get to the next light, stop. Anyway, we ended up at exactly the same, when I finally got to my destination, we ended up there at the exact same time. We left at the same time, and we got there at the same time. So, the idea that we can get ahead, obviously I had a much more casual, fun drive. They had a probably very stressful drive. I asked myself periodically, am I just trying to speed to the next red light? That's a question I'll check in with myself. But there is a flip side to that there is this thing called personal responsibility. And so I will ask myself, am I following divine timing and going along with time as it's supposed to go? Or am I procrastinating and trying not to take responsibility and trying to just get out of the consequences of the actions that I've taken? So, for example, did I sit around, let's say I have something I need to do. I've got plenty of time to do it, maybe even time to watch a quick show or, do something. Instead, did I sit around and binge watch TV and then get done and expect the universe to still let me get everything done on time? I will often do when I'm using the Retz energy from the Kujian is I will check in with my gut and ask myself, is there anything that I need to, if I'm running late for something and I want to tap into time and get done on time, the first thing I'll ask myself is there anything that I need to take personal responsibility that put me in this position that I need the extra time? Is there anything that I need to learn that I need to commit to do better in the future? And I've discovered if the answer to that is yes, then I actually make the commitment to learn the lesson and do better in the future. And if I do that, it works out. But if I'm just kind of, paying lip service to it and I don't mean it, it doesn't work out. However, there are often times where I can honestly say, no, there is nothing I need to learn. Like, for instance, one time I was at a hypnosis training and there was somebody who wanted to work with me. And I knew that my flight was coming up. And so I took a minute and I worked with them because I felt like, I asked the universe, is this something that's good? Or is this something that, maybe the reason I'm running late is because I'm supposed to pass them off to somebody else? You got to take the ego out of it. You got to take a moment to check in and see, is this on my path? Or is this something that I'm trying to selfishly put on my path that doesn't belong on my path? But, I got that answer. Yes, it's okay for you to do this. I did it. I tapped into the Retz energy and I was able to do what I was supposed to do and still make my flight. So, I think it's just that importance of being brutally honest with yourself. And if you're, and once again, this doesn't mean you're always being perfect. There have been times that I had to look back and say, no, you're right. I was goofing off. I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, and I knew it. And you know what? If you'll make it up to me this time, I promise next time I'm going to be more responsible. I promise I'm going to be, and this isn't like I have to be responsible every second of every minute of every day. It's, is this turning into a pattern? Is this the habit? So anyway, I've been rambling for quite a bit now, but hopefully that helps.
Great stuff, as always. Anybody else before I chime in? Yes, no? One of the things that hit me on this is also the difference between busy work and productive work. And that would hit me hard, still does. I am great. I am a master at keeping busy, aka fiddlefutzing, for those that know me and know what that means. I am a master fiddlefutzer. And I can fiddlefutz the day away and not get anything that I was supposed to get done. But I got a lot done. I got a lot done. And I didn't get an inch closer to my goal. But I was busy all day. And it's easier to accept that than what I was doing in the hospital, losing my mind, laying in a bed, binge watching TV and trying to find something that was worth putting into my noggin, which left me with basically two channels, HGTV and Food Network. And unfortunately, the cable supplier in that hospital needs a good stern talking to. Because those two channels would blip out, blip, no signal. I didn't even get to see what house they picked. Like, for real? For real, for real. So there's where you also have to keep, when you're asking about divine timing and all of the above, are you utilizing your divine timing? Like in Holly's example, heading towards the direction, didn't have the throttle tromp to the floor, but divine timing allowed her to just smooth sail the entire way versus the person who light screen to the red light, only to watch Holly go and as a mechanical person, trust me, I love it when I can pull that off. Watch those people go. I see you at the red light. I'm on my way. Light screen, I got momentum. Oh, there you go again. Bravo. See you at the next red light. But I know which one is easier on the vehicle. And this also points towards downtime and vacationing. I know you guys have heard me talk about this a couple of times. Make sure you get those vacations in. Oh, but I've got so much to do. I know, that's why you need a vacation. Well, where am I going to fit this in? Busy people will fit it in. Trust me, some of the busiest people in the world take more vacations than you do. Oh, I'm not going to be able to relax. Well, learn. Try. Have another foo-foo cocktail. Whatever it takes. Sign yourself up for 2 massages on the beach after a couple of foo-foo cocktails. There's a good chance that after one of them, you're going to be like, that was kind of nice. I think I got a new perspective on that project that I hadn't thought of. Yes. Because your brain was running so fast. Ooh, download squirrel from today. Where is it? Let me find it because this is good. In one of the things about being human, this is from Carlos Whitaker. We were not created as humans to consume the amount of content that we consume. In the 30 minutes that we start our day with these things, and the 30 minutes at the end of the day, in just that 1 hour, nearly anybody that owns one of these things will consume more information than our grandparents did in how much? 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. What do you think? We consume more content than our grandparents did in a week. I lip read. Who else has got a guess?
10 years.
Not 10 years, that's a little, but a month. In 1 hour, on a cell phone. We consume more content than our grandparents did in 1 month. Well, how did they consume content back in the day? Maybe the newspaper, if they subscribed. If they were lucky enough to have a television with all 3 channels, what did they watch? And yet, one of the things he pointed out was we have forgotten how to wonder. I wonder how old so-and-so is. They were born in August 2nd, 1927, passed away. My wife is information collection guru, wizard, absolutely wonderful. I don't have to wonder about hardly anything because I'm like, I wonder how da 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 da, and she's like, here's your answer. But he pointed out there was some magic in having the wondering, in allowing our brains to be present, allow our brains to operate at 3 miles an hour, which is the average speed that people walk. Linda.
Those dates you gave might be for your grandparents. However, for my grandparents, who died shortly after they stopped delivering milk by horse-drawn wagon,
There you go.
we probably consume more information in an hour than they would practically in a lifetime.
Right?
So there you go. And we're human beings really built for that. Who knows?
Well, I remember distinctly my grandfather passed away at age of 94. Lived on the same plot of land till he was early 80s. And I remember introducing him to cell phones and having it strike me what he experienced in his lifetime. Came across the boat from Germany as a newborn, made the trek from New York to Minnesota to land in Miltona, horse-drawn farming, and then there was gas engine, and then there were nicer cars, and then there was milking machines and telephones and black and white TV and then color TV, and now here we are with, how many different things in this one little brick of glass and lights and chips. And with how fast AI is going now, one of the things that Carlos Whitaker pointed out, we have to remember how to be human. When you lower the volume of life the volume of living goes up. He agreed to a brain scan test from Daniel Amen. And if you don't know who that is, look him up. Great, intelligent person with many, many brain scans. And so he did a brain scan on Carlos and pointed out some of the stuff that he saw with all of his input and cell phone and things like that. And so as part of the experiment, Carlos had to go, I don't remember which, he had to go spend time, like 4 weeks, with some monks. No input, no cell phones, nothing from the outside world. Very little talking. He said the first 3 weeks, he thought he was going to go mad, lose his mind, go insane. And then something clicked. And when he got done with the 4 weeks there, then he got shipped off to an Amish farm. He said to go from there to there, seeing all these people with their screens and like, and spent 4 weeks on an Amish farm. When he went back and had the brain scans again, the difference in the texture of his brain and the size of his amygdala was incredible. Slowing down, and he said now he's very cognitive about, he charges his cell phone in his kitchen. He went out and got one of those crazy things to put by his bed called an alarm clock. And all it does is tells time. Can't call anybody with it. You can't look up any information on it. Just tells time. It wakes him up for those times that he actually has to be up at a certain time. And he wakes up to the darn thing and goes out to the kitchen and doesn't look at his phone, makes himself some coffee, walks out to the front of the house, because by then this crazy thing called a newspaper that he actually gets delivered is there. And he said he sits down on his front porch, sips coffee, reads on paper what he thinks is important enough for him to actually put in his brain. And then after he takes his shower, then he checks his phone to see if there was anything that he might need to respond to. But that's how he starts his day. And he gets a ton done. Man, when they were going over his credits, yeah, he's not a slacker. And I know most people, high achievers or active people, hear a story like that and they're like, I would lose my mind. I gotta have my phone like right here. What time is it? Oh, it's my alarm phone. It's my information phone. Did I miss any calls? I gotta check my emails. Now I can get out of bed and go get some coffee while I respond to all my emails. And guilty. 15 years at a maintenance company where I had to be on call 24/7. Before that, tire shop with 24-hour service calls, and yeah, So I realized that was a little bit of a rant. Hopefully you guys got some good information out of that. We got 10 minutes left. Any input, ahas, comments, epiphanies on what I just rolled out for the last who knows how long? Well, if not, that leaves us with about 8 minutes left. Who's got an 8-minute question?
Very specific. There's a lovely
There's
fan.
a pretty face.
Hello, the internet has been unstable today.
Speaking of technology, yes, there are days I love technology, and then there's the rest of the year. But we're here, and that makes my heart smile.
And
So-
today is a reasonably cool day. We're in our mid-30s, and we've had just a few days ago an unbelievable, which is really scary, 49.3 degrees Celsius, 49.3. I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit.
Well, no, here we call that an oven. That's what we call it. That's called, yeah.
Yeah, we're having a real heat wave, but a cool day today. So today is wonderful. Yes.
Yay! I'm in Texas. We had our fair share of 100 and help me Jesus degrees in Fahrenheit. Oh, 120? Yeah, we didn't hit 120. We were in the 107, 110, which is still 100 and help me degrees Jesus, you know. So, sending you cool energies. Any more questions, ahas, epiphanies on the stuff we've covered? I know that we had some pretty good stuff. It's trying to see if there's anything else that I want to.
I know Holly had shared some questions earlier, and I thought they were fantastic. Holly, when you were sharing them, I'm thinking the way that you were sharing them felt very in the moment. If you should do something, what are some questions that you guys ask yourself when you're blocked about a specific topic? Navigate around that.
I'm sure tons of people want to go. But one of the first questions I'll ask myself is, is there some part of me that that ego is trying to hold on to this? Like, what is it I'm not being honest with myself about, causing this to happen? And then another question I'll ask myself is this something I'm supposed to handle myself? Or is this something, as PJ says, that I'm trying to be the driver and the passenger, and I need to reach out to somebody else? And if I do that, then the next question I ask myself is, I'll ask who is the right person or right people to reach out to help me overcome this? I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff, but those were the first two things that popped into my head.
Good stuff. And not too ironically, when you brought that up, I just read a quote that kind of ties in with that, or at least I hope it does, where are we asking ourselves, or are we thinking that success is the absence of bumps and challenges? Because failure always feels better than regret, especially when we can look at failure as research. when we know there's a chance that things aren't going to be 100% in line, bada bing, bada bing, then we go over, like what I covered in the past of, how did WD-40 get its name? Because they found out 39 ways it didn't work. Or it would have been WD-35 or WD-45. They just happened to find the right recipe on 40. But when failure is research, kind of puts a different spin on how it hits when we don't get the exact result we're looking for. We've just found another way it doesn't work. And there will always be outside circumstances. Like when the weather outside is 120 degrees. You just go, yeah, that was out of my control. Because trust me, I know for a fact that if Fran could have went, hey, Mother Nature, oven's on, a little high. Could we just drop it a bit? She would have. And so you do what you can with what you got, where you are. Kind of sounds like something you guys have heard me say many times before. How's it go? You do the best you can with the tools, knowledge, and energy you have available to you. If you could have done better, you would have. So no coulda, shoulda, woulda. Otherwise, all you do is should all over yourself. That leads for a shouldy life, and nobody needs that. Holly.
Just a couple quick things that are popping into my head as TJ's talking here too. Another question I'll ask myself is, should this even be a priority in my life? Because I don't have to master everything, and I might be focusing on something that's somebody else's priority rather than my own priority. And then another question I ask myself is, have I already done everything? Am I already on the journey? Am I already making the movement I need, and I'm just letting the journey happen? Or is there something that I actively am not doing or am doing that needs to change in order for me to get to the destination? Because I'm not going to beat myself up for not being at the destination. I'm just going to course correct if I'm not on track to go to the destination.
Great questions. Awesome. And it kind of, when you said that, kind of went in line with, you guys have heard me many times say that, I love learning. If there was a free class for underwater basket weaving and I had the time, I'd probably take it just because I like to learn. And in line with what Holly just pointed out, what if I get a C- on my final? So I got the knowledge that I needed. I'm probably not going to go into business for myself making baskets underwater. So I'll take the lessons and move forward. But I've also pointed out, what do they call a doctor who graduated with a C average? Doctor. And hopefully he got the C because he did the best he could at the time with the tools, knowledge, energy he had available to him. And he may, in life, be a better doctor than the one that graduated with an A. because the one that was the A may have been there on some type of scholarship and didn't have to work 2 jobs at night to be able to go to school. So and the one that got the C may actually have been maybe a doctorate in this lifetime, and the one that got the A's may actually be a 5th grader who just kind of slid through and is taking a free-for-all and having fun. So we never know. Yes.
I like how you close that loop.
Circle round. Close them loops up. But that brings us just past the top of the hour, which it's amazing how fast it goes sometimes. Time distortion. I hope you guys enjoyed the ride. And unfortunately, it brings me to the point where I have to say thank you so much for sharing your precious commodity of time, because I still haven't figured out how to produce more of it to give it back to you. So for you to invest your precious commodity here on this platform with your great questions, responses, insights, smiles, energies, and all the above. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wish I had the vocabulary to say it the way I actually want to say it, but I don't. I'm a human. But I will say I truly adore every single one of you, those of you on the call, those of you watching live. Love you, Mom. And for those of you watching the recording, thank you again. Please go out and share this however you can. Click the subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but helps me out. Get on there. Place some comments, even if it's just hello. Until then, looking forward to seeing your amazing faces 7 days from now. Until then, go out, enjoy your life as much as possible, make the world a better place, keep that beautiful smile on. Bye!
Good night, everybody. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.